Yo, what up? I'm Brian Boyer. Recently, a few people have been reading a memoir I published 5 years ago, but I wrote it 6 years ago called Writing and Rising from Addiction, which is basically an autobiography of my life all the way up to age 43. And I'm 49 now, so yeah, the writing in this book is 6 years old, which made me feel kind of weird that people were actually even looking at it. So I'm like, oh man, I'm sure the writing is terrible because I've improved a lot as a writer in the past 6 years. So yeah, I picked it up and started looking through it. It's not too bad, I guess. There's some parts that got missed. I dictated this entire book, by the way, and I noticed a couple instances where I would say stuff like I had to went, like I should have went to the store and got more beer, which is grammatically incorrect. Of course, you should say I should have gone to the store, and if I were writing it, of course that's what I would write. I would write I should have gone to the store, but I dictated this entire book. So I was speaking it, and I'm a hillbilly from West Virginia originally, and a lot of times I'll say things like that. Man, I should have went. And I try to catch myself. I'll try to correct myself before the words come out of my mouth. And yeah, no, I usually do. But yeah, 6 years ago when I was dictating this book, a couple of times I would say, man, I should have went or something like that. And then later on when I was typing it up in a hurry, a couple of those got missed, and I just wasn't paying attention and just typed it up exactly how I had dictated the words into my phone. So yeah, you might run into a couple of those. Sorry about that. And I saw a mistake when I was in a juvenile prison cell, and I'm describing the scene. It was in 1990, and I was locked up in Salem, and a correctional officer named Moscar gave me a book, a Stephen King book, and I said he handed me a copy of Nightmares and Dreamscapes, but that was not the book. He actually handed me Four Past Midnight. Nightmares and Dreamscapes wasn't even out in 1990. That came out in like 92 or 93, one of those years. And I just got my wires crossed, I guess, when I was dictating it. And then when I was typing it up, I didn't even fact check myself. But then I was looking through it and I was like, wait a second, man, that wasn't Nightmares and Dreamscapes. That was Four Past Midnight. Anyway, I have since corrected that in the paperback edition, but not the ebook edition. I don't even know if I ever will. I might sometime, whatever. Uh, yeah, I never intended to write this book, man. That was my wife Carissa's suggestion before we were ever married. Just when we were boyfriend and girlfriend, and she would hear some of my late night drunken stories, and she was like, man, you need to fucking write your life story. And she is far from the first person that has told me that. But I told her what I told everybody else. Oh man, ain't nobody wants to read that shit. But she was persistent, so I was like, well, let me see what it looks like. So I started writing it, and I was like, it's not too bad, I guess. It might be okay. And then I just got a few pages in, and I was like, man, no one is going to believe this fucking shit. And she's like, so just keep writing it. So I'd keep writing it, and I'd come to another place. I'd be like, I mean, absolutely no one, Carissa, is ever going to fucking believe this shit at all. And she's like, so? It's your truth. So you need to include it. If you omit it and you live to be 80 and you go back and read that, you're going to be like, man, I should have put that motherfucking shit in. And I was like, okay, fine, you're right, fuck it. Who gives a fuck if no one believes me? But, because I really don't care if you believe anything in this book or not. I mean, maybe I am lying about all of it or none of it. Whatever, who cares? But, I'm not, by the way. But I think if anyone actually sat down to write their life story, anybody would have parts in their book that would be unbelievable. I mean, whoever you are, if you're listening to this, I'm sure there have been many, many moments in your life where you have experienced things and you've thought or said, no one would believe this. I wouldn't believe it, but it happened to me. So believe it or not, this is what the fuck happened. So yeah, I mean, that's all. And I left everything out of this book, man. I mean, I left everything out. It still became, it's like over 500 some pages in print. But I mean, if you included even a fraction of everything, you're looking at what, a fucking gazillion pages? I mean, I tried real hard to keep this brief. And Anyway, yeah, that's all. But yeah, writing and rising from addiction. Cool little trip down memory lane for me writing it, and even now, 6 years later, looking at it, yeah, there's some cool stuff in there, man. Especially if you grew up in the '80s and the '90s and were around for the 2000s and the 2010s and all the way. I mean, I wrote this, like I said, it's all the way up to like 2016. It was published in 2017. I wrote it all the way up to when I stopped writing. I mean, I started it in 2016 and I described my life from the earliest memory all the way up to where I was when I stopped writing. So, yeah, you'll see a lot of your stuff in this, no matter where you're from or who you know or what you've done. You will see a lot of yourself in this book, I guarantee you. Anyway, thanks. Have a nice night.